Hi, I'm Mel Mitchell. The Enterprise History Project began with a small idea, but it's evolved into a project of national significance. 4 years ago, a group of people who'd been involved in establishing many groundbreaking programs for migrants and refugees in Springvale offered to create an exhibition for the Melbourne Immigration Museum. The exhibition would tell the story of the Enterprise Migrant Hostel and the very unique welcome that the Springvale community gave to the residents who lived there. They took their idea to the community, who responded with great enthusiasm. Stories were told, photos were collected, memorabilia was loaned, and a DVD was made. All the work was carried out by volunteers. In 2008, the exhibition spent 5 months at the Melbourne Immigration Museum, and it was so enthusiastically received that it was transferred to the Springvale Historical Society for a further 3 months. In 2009, again in response to community requests, a website was created. It was launched at the Lexington Gardens Retirement Village, the old site of the Enterprise Hostel. For many of the storytellers, this was a very emotional experience, as they were visiting the site for the first time since they had left many years earlier. The community now saw the opportunity to mark the history of Enterprise, the unique welcome the residents had received, and the wonderful contribution refugees and migrants have made to the development of this area and indeed to the nation. An extensive consultation took place and a report, I'm Home, was produced. It recommends a 4-stage approach: the naming of a new rose, the Enterprise Rose, which will be launched at the Melbourne Flower Show in April 2012. The second recommendation is a tribute at Lexington Gardens consisting of a digiglass sculpture surrounded by rose gardens. The third is a trail of public art at the places which were important to the newcomers. Finally, it's hoped that the spirit of this project will inform the building of the new Springvale Library and the Community Hub. Perhaps a national competition could be held for the design of the building and the surrounding gardens. All these recommendations have received universal support, as the following statements will illustrate.
Growing up in the Dandenong-Springvale corridor, I just had the best childhood imaginable, and part of that was because I went to a school with 50 different ethnicities, and how wonderful it was to rub shoulders with boys and girls who had come from literally all around the world. Accordingly, I'm delighted to encourage the city of Greater Dandenong, indeed anyone who has any interest in celebrating the wonderful heritage we have in accepting immigrants, refugees from all around the world, and to look carefully at the wonderful initiatives that are proposed in the I'm Home report.
From 1970 to 1992, 30,000 people came from countries all across the world to make their home at the Springvale Enterprise Hostel. They were greeted with the words, "You are welcome here." These wonderful words underpinned the spirit of the Springvale community's determination to build a community which was inclusive of the people who made Enterprise Hostel their home. Please join me in supporting this project, which will capture the important history of the Springvale community and our nation.
Hi. On the 24th of May 1972, my family arrived here in Melbourne on a cold, dreary day, and we stood there with 2 suitcases and a trunk, a whole family with everything we owned, right there in front of the Enterprise Hostel. It's a moment that never leaves you. It's a moment that really sets the tone for the rest of your life in the new country. And every time I read about refugees and new migrants here, I always think about that day and what a huge part Enterprise played in our lives. As a former resident of the Enterprise Hostel, the place where our history, my family's history, started here in Australia, I cannot recommend enough the Enterprise History Project.
This project is of national importance because it honours not only our past but our present. It shows that we're a nation of immigrants, and it's an opportunity to build something that will not only reflect on our past but also put Springvale on the map.
My family came from Bolivia, and it was just a very welcoming and amazing place to arrive to in such an unusual country, an exotic country like Australia, and to be surrounded with so many different nationalities where everybody got along so well, and we just all felt very at home with each other. That's a very unique quality that I think the Enterprise Hostel was able to nurture, and to then send these new migrants out into Melbourne society. I have great memories from being a little child arriving there. I think it's a fantastic initiative, so good luck with it.
It's been an absolute delight supporting this project. From time to time we have contractors who visit the village in the course of their work, such as Telstra technicians, and they tell me that they actually lived here as children, and which is lovely for them to come back, and they start reminiscing about how life was here, and they really speak of their times with great fondness. The residents at the village really support the recommendations of the report, and we really hope that these can be realised.
There's several different perspectives from which I approach the story of refugees in Australia. There's my personal connection. My mother was a refugee. My father's parents were refugees, and you don't have to go far back then in my personal family history to see the contribution that refugees have made and that whole generation have made to the development of this country. And as a young student, I worked at Springvale Legal Service and worked with people from the nearby hostel, from all those communities that have made such an incredible contribution across such a broad range to the history of that part of Melbourne, this state and this country. And that's why a project that celebrates that contribution is absolutely vital and something we should immediately make a priority. A project like this one, well, I can't recommend it enough.
A national architectural competition, well planned and well managed, will draw the attention and contribution from Australia's leading architects. And this will lead, in my view, to a lasting acknowledgement of the significant contribution, culturally and socially, that the Enterprise Hostel has made to the Australian nation.
The way a building is procured is really important in terms of the outcome of the quality of that building. There are several options that you can go through. One, you need to prepare a brief that speaks eloquently not only about the functional aspects of the building, but about the more poetic aspects of the building. The ancient Roman architect Vitruvius spoke about three key criteria when it comes to architecture: firmness, the way something is built; utility, the way it functions; and delight. We don't speak enough about the delight aspect of a building, and it is in fact what is most memorable about buildings we visit, and it is what a community can take real pride in. From what I understand, this building has the potential not only to reflect in a proud way on past achievements, but also to project forward to future possibilities and what may happen in the community. This is a fantastic project. It encompasses so many of the things that we as Australians can be proud about. So I really encourage everyone to get behind it and make it as good as it possibly can be.
In December 1979, our family came to Australia, and we stayed. Our first year, we stayed in Enterprise Hostel in Springvale.
There was myself, my husband Ying, my daughter Bulan, my son Tree. We all come to Australia for freedom.
Our experience in Australia from the very beginning was certainly, one of a very happy one, and also very welcoming. And the community just opened up their arms, and the Australian people just welcome the whole family, not just our family, but also the community. It's important we celebrate the history of Enterprise for our children, our grandchildren, and all the generations to come. All of our families strongly support the proposals in the I'm Home report.
I'm delighted to support the Springvale Migrant Hostel Enterprise project. The community should be very, very strongly congratulated for what they have done already and for what they've achieved. And I hope this project gets maximum support. It shows quite clearly what happens when new migrants to this country are welcomed with open arms, brought into the community, made part of the community. They add to its diversity. Diversity becomes a strength and something that enriches all our lives. I wish the project well and hope it gains a great deal of support.